Okay, I think we're up and running. Look at this. Oh, no, this. It's turned around. Okay, so I put a little image up over there on the side of the screen. And we're going to talk about that image in a few minutes. But in the meantime, hi everybody. I hope you're having a good day. It's the start of a new week. And here we go, I have had an interesting couple of weeks. And, so my latest and greatest is this business. Jim jammed my arm yesterday. And, that's not always an interesting thing to do. But I'm feeling better anyways as far as it goes for the cold. And the cold has sat in my chest and it's breaking up now. I might cough a little bit, and if I do, I apologize for that right up front. I'd like to go over today's pages, and so I'm just going to remove this and pop up that. But before I do, I would like to say thank you to these patrons for being as supportive as they've been, and how that helps out. So thank you very much. You guys help to make it possible for me to do what I'm doing. Now, so this is the second alternate ending that I have up on the screen now. So let's walk back through this. The suggestion was elaborate. The suggestion was... where did I put it? Just give me a second. It takes me... It's a chore to move things. Just getting that out of the road. Should have had it in front of me, let's be honest. So the suggestion was I don't know where I put it. Okay, it doesn't. None of that matters. The suggestion for this page was a person who gets arrested on a cruise ship for bringing a jelly thing with them, and their husband denies knowing about it. So that was the suggestion. It came from Cat and Paste, and thank you, Cat, for Christine, for that suggestion. It was a lot of fun. It was in reference to Yolanda coming back from a holiday on Devon Rex for Art. If you get a chance, check out her channel. She's a brilliant jelly plate artist. Absolutely phenomenal. I would set her at the top of the jelly platers that I've seen here in North America. So I haven't seen anybody else really outside of it. So there's one British guy, but he does completely different weird stuff. So I really appreciate their work anyhow. And so this is in reference to that they went on a holiday, and she didn't take her jelly plate with her. Wouldn't that have been funny if she had? So thank you, Kat, for that suggestion. So I initially did this image because I really enjoyed drawing this boat, and I thought it was such a compelling image that why don't I just pop this up for the one day? So it doesn't count as, I don't count it as a page, but so that's what started this. And then I went a different direction. So this is silly image. And then I followed it up with the Gelli Cruise Part 1. Now, I didn't put the Gelli Cruise Part 2 and Part 3 on the other pages. And the reason that I didn't do that is that I thought, well, there could be all kinds of silly things happening on the Gelli Cruise, or different ways of interpreting the Gelli Cruise. And so what I thought would be, if I collected these, the Gelli Cruise Part 1 would be the first and second pages of normal things. And the Gelli Cruise Part 2 would be the first page and the second page with the Cthulhian bent. And then you could be, a third one could be aliens, and a fourth one could be... I'm not suggesting that I'm going to continue on and do a bunch of these right now, but it's something that could be explored in the future. So, the Gelli Cruise Part 1 starts with the captain making an announcement. Somebody's got something on the ship that they really shouldn't have. So we're going to do a ship search, which I recognize wouldn't really happen. Hi, Aditi. Welcome aboard. So then the second page that follows that up is Yolanda getting arrested. So it's, the second page is he's they're searching through and they bring her to her cabin. She shows them her jelly plate. They put it away like it's some kind of creepy, weird, awkward thing, and they bring her into custody in order to go deal with it. See, so it's a story you can continue on. This is just a sort of snippet into the story. But then the next thing that I did was a reiteration of the same page, and so you'll see the whole top part of the page is the same for the most part. But then we switch to the doorway is dark, the three looking into the room are in shadow, and hiya, Dee Dee, welcome aboard. I don't know if I said that or not, but thank you for popping in. And then it's the husband crawling out of the darkness with his wife's jelly plate. So I've switched who has the jelly plate in this story. It's her jelly plate, and oh no, not that. So, so there's the second version, and then there's the first version where she ends up, she's gonna have to explain it, and once they realize it's just a jelly plate, it's ridiculous. So, how you doing, Deb? Welcome aboard. I'll have to show this one in a hubby. Well, I hope you guys don't mind it. This version is a little nicer to your husband and you than this one, where he's trying to climb out of the darkness with with the monstrous thing. So in the spirit of active involvement, what I did was for the skeleton, for the tentacle monster, I scanned one of my jelly plated images, and I used this background information and colored the octopus with this. And you know that, and I know that. Will anyone else know that? Probably not, but it's like sympathetic magic, right? So there's the weird coloring on the octopus, and the jelly plate is actual jelly plating. There's a great sense of humor, so I'll love it. Hey, she didn't mind being eaten by a jelly plate. Well, I'm sorry for that. I don't mean to be so dark. But so this is a fun way to start. Well, we started one way with being silly, and then we tried to do straightforward, mundane, typical dramatic type story that follows through for her being arrested under a misunderstanding. The only really truly silly moment is the putting it in the plastic bag business. I think that's the silliest moment in this whole page. Even more so than it's only a jelly plate. It's making for art and crafts. Anyways. And then, of course, this second ending is just outright bonkers. Now, if I was going to further this idea, I would really like to step up the coloring and illustration a little bit more. But because I monkeyed up my wrist this weekend, I'm happy I got this much done. So there we go. It just it was a good place to sort of say, hey, there we are, there we go. But I have some fun for you because I'm taking it easy I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff. I'm so sorry. He has a great sense of humor. He will love it. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Great way to incorporate the jelly print. Oh, yeah, that was fun. Thank you. I live dark humor. Love even. What did I do to my wrist? So sorry about your wrist. So we're cleaning up Lori's dad's garage, and he passed last year, and Mom feels comfortable to say, okay, we need to do something with a lot of his tools. So I started helping her do that, and I was good through the whole process. And then as I was loading something, I've got all the weight in this hand, and for whatever reason, I just put my hand into a door and misjudged where the door was and bent my hand back. So it's bruised. That's all. It'll be fine in a couple of days as long as I don't, try to do some crazy twirling with a rope or anything mad like that, which I don't see happening. So yeah, but I appreciate people's kind words and support. So I thought we would start today by showing you some things, and it's a lot to do with books today. Yeah, it's even colors. It's different colors. Anyhow, so okay, I'm going to switch to the overhead, and so this is a start of a little pile. No baton twirling. That's what I was initially trying to think of. Actually, with this business here, I was trying to think of a baton. So thank you. I couldn't remember the words, so that's why I went with a rope. No heavy books. Do you notice how small these books are? The first book I pulled off the shelf was a large book, and I went, no. I put it back on the shelf. Excuse me. Okay. So I have a number of adaptation books. I have got 1984 adapted. I've got Slaughterhouse-5 adapted. I've got for heaven's sakes, I just had a third one on top of my head. I have to look this up. It's going to make me crazy. Brave New World. I couldn't remember Brave New World, and that was going to bother me. So now this and quite a few other books. Like I bought the Pride and Prejudice books for our youngest daughter when she was a teenager. So I like adaptations when they're done right. And I have a lot of classics illustrated. One of my favorite is Moby Dick by Bill Sienkiewicz, who I'm going to show you one of his sketchbooks that I have. Hi, Linda. Welcome aboard. Okay, so Dee Dee's got her books image up. That's great. So here's the Odyssey. And now Greg Tocchini, I have showed his work before. He did a series called Low, which is set in 10,000 years in the future. The sun is burning the earth, so people have been living under the ocean for 10,000 years, and they're trying to find out if it's hospitable on the surface or if there's another hospitable planet that they can go to at this point. So Greg Tocchini illustrated that, and beautifully so. But this is Greg Tocchini adapting the Odyssey by Homer, and it's just fantastic. He has a really great graphic style. He has a really interesting, powerful grasp of figural work, and and scaling, and look at the difference in scales here for the army close, the spirits in the trees, the facing off between the two of them. Now the colorist does the separations like that, but you can just see with his work that he has a strong, really, really strong and sort of classic sense of proportioning and classic sense of staging. So I really like this. I think it's just a wonderful interpretation of Homer's work, and just great stuff. If you get a chance and you are looking for good adaptations of classic work, and if you've got like a young reader developing around you, and you're trying to figure out ways for them to engage in classic literature purely with books as opposed to devices these days, Classics Illustrated is a comic series that came out. A number of different versions of them have come out, and specifically in the 1980s, they came out with rather fine graphic art versions of them. And excuse me. And so in the course of that, in making these beautiful books, let me see if I can find another good example to show you. I've shown this before, and that is Moby Dick by Sienkiewicz. maybe it's, where did I place that? Well, that's not where it's supposed to be. But I've shown it before here on the stream. Is this it? No. Okay, well, anyhow, this is from that sort of range. And beautiful, beautiful versions of many classic books, many classic pieces. And I love that. I love that this is a way, because let's be honest, we live in an age where kids aren't reading. They're just not reading. And a rather deceptive and yet entirely practical way to get them to read is to coordinate it with pictures. So comics are working. That's all I'm saying. Now, so this is another book I want to show you, but just before I do that, I want to show you this. Ooh, I'm going to show you a little bit more of it, but this is I got the proof for my new book, and we're setting up the dates for it, but I'll show you more of this in a second. Asaph and Tomer Chanukah are two brothers. One was raised in Israel, one was raised in New York. And these two brothers, absolutely wonderful art styles. And I've got a few books of The Realist, which is Asaph's work. I really enjoy Asaph's stuff, and he's documenting what it is to live and raise a family in Israel with everything going on. And it's a really great artist doing really great and sometimes really surreal stuff. But life isn't what you thought. Look at that. So, Sean Runciman, is that my son? Hi, bud. Yep, I did. Yes, I did indeed do. So the Chanukah brothers are really great, but this book has some really interesting things that I wanted to show, and one of which is you've got no borders on these. You've got crisp, clean edges of the images, but you've got no exterior borders on these. And because of the way that they have such a strong grasp of color, and they rely on even the black line, quote unquote, black and lined areas are generally colored lined areas. The art just sort of has this animated sort of a vibe to it, and a really, really strong grasp of tone. So it's just yet another type of approach that can be taken towards storytelling. And whereas the first book that I showed you, okay, so if you look at this and you see that it's almost the animated style, it's very two-dimensional, very flat values, and yet at the same time, without having these strong hard-bordered edges, it really allows you to just stay within the softness of the palette, and how it's indicative of the environment that they're in. And so you can see when you see up close, you can see really how, look at that strong sense of composition, but not a lot of black, not a lot of black line in there. And when you look at Greg Tokini's stuff, there's clear delineation on the black lined areas, the darkened areas, higher contrast. But then he does a similar thing with the color values. And there's a brown line instead of a black line on these hills. There's a light blue-green line on these trees here for this forest, as opposed to, again, deferring to a black line. But then when he does outline the character like so, it makes it pop forward towards you and pushes the background back. And then we see this even farther pushing back of this even lighter value with an even lighter exterior line art. Little crisp edge to it. So there's a lot to be done for that in storytelling. But again, you can see there's a lot more use of black in general. Whereas with the Chanukah brothers, it's poignant when it does pop up. I'm going to pop back up for a second here, so you can see this entire 2-page image. little helicopter flying away at the top. But just really strong use of that black so that it has heavy impact. So let me see. Am I missing a bunch of? Hiya, Sean. Sean is my my oldest son. Hiya, buddy. How you doing? Remind me, I gotta call you tonight. And hiya, Aaron. How you doing today? Welcome aboard. So we're gonna go a different direction again, and this is a story called Iron, or the War After. This is an anthropomorphic book. Anthropomorphism I've talked about before. It's the use of animals to replace our characters. Is it going to focus and stay focused or not? There we go. So a prominent example I've shown. Oh, you're doing good, just popping in to see you. Oh, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. So the Black Sad book that I've shown here before on the stream, which is about a Black Panther detective and very crime noir, very much set in the 1930s, very Chandler-esque. If you're familiar with Philip Chandler's crime novellas. So hi Riri, welcome aboard. So that's a prominent example of people using anthropomorphic representations to show the characters' personalities. And just for those that might not remember, that's Black Sad. And this is one of his sketchbooks on the making of. But you can see let me see, like you've got the creepy bartender's a lizard, or you've got there's a Weasley little guy who's always bartering information. Of course, he's represented as a weasel, but there he is, the private detective, down on his luck guy. Anyhow, everybody's got animal ears. Brilliant work, though. And but this is a different direction again. So we talked about the heavy line, but also the powerful use of contrast in the Greg Trocchini book. We talked about this more utilitarian approach. Black has a poignant meaning in here. Anybody remember Me Natural? I don't know what Me Natural is. I'm sorry. Mr. Natural. Oh, I know about a Mr. In Between, in that you shouldn't mess with him. I couldn't help myself. Okay. So this is by S.M. Vidori, and this is a lovely, lovely book. Chapter 1, or The Thief. And so it takes its time. It uses this really strong sense of washes and really strong sense of value and color. And it sets a tone, immediately sets a tone and sets a feeling of isolation, as our main character, who's clearly cold, walks us into the story. And like the incompleteness of this farmhouse, sort of setting it into that blustery wind. And oh, Mr. Natural, yeah, I know Mr. Natural, the comics. Oh, sure, that's Robert Crumb. Yep. Oh, yeah. 1960s counterculture, hippy-dippy stuff. Yeah, good stuff. So then we move into the household. There's a great use of light here for the cast light from behind. Let's see if we can zoom in. Look at the strong sense of light in this panel alone. As this person's answering the door, you get the sense of the cast light coming from behind him. It's illuminating his character. The shadow of that character is interfering with it. And he does it again in this panel. So it's really strong stuff. Hiya, Ann. Welcome aboard. Hey, April. How you doing? So this is yet another approach. Again, no strong black outlines on the edges. There's division between panels with the use of white. So it really allows all of these different compositions, all of these different compositional elements in the panels to distinctly be separated from one another and yet carry us through the story. So, great stuff. Anyways, this is called Iron or the War After. And it's a lovely, lovely book. ISBN for this is 978-1-936-393-28-2. And the Odyssey is 978-078-511-9159. And The Divine by the Hanukkah Brothers is 978-1-59643-674-9. And please feel free to go back and check that out. Okay, and Riri says, oh no, Christopher Enablement. So this is a book from Bill Sienkiewicz that I got signed by him. So super cool. And this is his precursor sketchbook. And so what this is a lot of his compositional works of him experimenting and trying different things. And Bill Sienkiewicz illustrates comics, but he is also a big achievement member of the American Society of Illustrators. His grasp on color and his grasp on material is phenomenal. And I'm going to warn you up front, there might be pictures at time. So, but you can see all of this great exploration of compositions and great exploration. So that they look very realistic. I mean, his grasp on color is so strong. How can I do this? There we go. Look at this. That's ink wash. So, you know, if you get a chance to look at Sienkiewicz's work, you won't be disappointed. Look at this one. Bingo, bango, bongo. So, what's so interesting about this artist, though, is that he is a comic book artist as well as a fine artist. So you can see some of his fine work. And this is the artist that did the Moby Dick adaptation. So you can imagine how lovely that is. This is a ballpoint pen. This is ink and various mixed media. Look at that. That's a tonal study with markers. Looks like markers. Zipatone. Wow. Probably ink then. But just fine work. And it's one of these artists that defies convention. You know, he isn't just pigeonholed into being superhero guy. This is from one of his books called Stray Toasters. And it has this avant-garde moments. I'll show you another book of his in just a second, just to show you his graphic sensibility when doing, this reminds me of Wyeth, when doing a comic story. This is one of his big numbers books, and this is written by Alan Moore and illustrated by Sienkiewicz. And so this is one of his comics. It's about the making of a mall in like a strip mall in England, because England really doesn't have strip malls. So you can see this strong use. I'm going to jump in on this in a second because it's even more powerful up close. So look at the textures in the face as we're looking at a kid, you know, through a window or through the window of memory. Look at this technique for drawing the railroad, this scribbling approach to drawing grass, all of this experimentation within the same pages. There's a train schedule, there's a pen and ink drawing of a glass shattering as it's being thrown. you know, just great stuff. And I'm a big, big fan of Bill Sienkiewicz's work. There's a couple of artists that, you know, I feel indebted to, and Sienkiewicz's is one of them. I met him once, and he's really, really nice. But look at the scratching motif that he's using here. And I'll pop in on that. Or I've already up, sorry. And look at that scratching motif. When you pull out to see the entirety of the page, look how that works together. With all of these hash lines. These vertical lines that are defining characters. Not a crisp edge, not a concern about that. It's telling a story. All these different things that I'm showing you is about telling stories. And the different approaches that people can take and do so with real strong graphic sensibility, but very different from one another, you know, and yet at the same time, every one of them meritorious. It's just, I wouldn't ever want anyone to feel pigeonholed in having to tell sequential stories, comic stories, in a specific way. I mean, if you want to do one in watercolor, do one in watercolor. If you want to do one in mixed media, I can show you lots of examples of mixed media artists. Inks, ink wash, you know, Sharpie markers. There's a whole bunch of different examples I've tried to show over the course of the stream. And, you know, the ones that I've put in front of you today are just more fine examples of it. Okay, now, the other thing I wanted to show you, and we were just trying to finalize the date for release. A couple years ago, I put out this. This is my silly, silly book, where I started at the beginning of the virus, and I put it forward to a number of people that I knew that were feeling isolated because of lockdowns and not being allowed to, not having the liberty to go around and to do the things you want to do because everybody was trying to isolate from one another, which is a really stupid social experiment. But, and you know, in a lot of cases, yes, sure, I'm not going to argue about whether it's viable or not as a necessity for dealing with the virus, but socially and psychologically is really damaging for a lot of people. So one of the things that I tried to put forward, because coming to the store I used to work at might have been their only avenue of engagement with other human beings, because they might work from home or whatever it is, if you want to contact me through some social media or call me whatever it was, tell me a story idea and I'll write and draw a comic story. And so that's how this all started. And so this book that came out a couple of years ago collects the first ones that I was doing. This is Antonio Banderas is Too Sexy. This is Nicolas Cage gives a message on the virus, you know, pretending to be the Queen. And this one is Hop Like a Bunny, you know. The bunny seemed to have it made. Maybe I'll hop around like a bunny. And, you know, maybe not. There's Frankenstein Goes to Kindergarten. This is the day the chocolate chips came up against the ginger snaps. You know, so it's me just doing whatever I wanted to do. And to put, this is a roving horde of vegan zombies. And so it's me learning how to utilize Photoshop for the first time. And the different things that I could do. And it's me just trying whatever different things I wanted to do and whatever different approaches I wanted to take. I do not know why this stupid robot is not focusing. There we go. Excuse me. But that's what all of these are. This is rock, paper, scissors fight between kaijus, Godzilla. See who gets to destroy the city. This is the treasure was not what I expected. And this is a layered page. Anyways, the vegan zombies, love it. Yeah. Well, my favorite panel for the vegan zombies is excuse me a sec. Right here. At first we thought they were stocking the survivor camps. They would gather and watch the workers in the secured fields. They're not watching the people working, they're watching the vegetables. It's such a dumb joke. Tree huggers, freegans, supplementals, tofu, yeah, animal lovers. Yeah, it is so dumb. This page is just silly fun. And this is all about going to a punk rock show. This Sam the Private Eyes that I started doing. It was a typical day. It was hot and humid. My head was still ringing from last night. I tried work and I paced around reviewing notes from my case. A call came in. Ring, ring. And the call says, "Hey, Sam, you stink." That's it. Now, why would someone go and say a thing like that? The worst private eye story you've ever read. So, anyhow. There's my dance moves. Somebody wanted me to do a page just of my dance moves. And this is in the Society of Vultures. This is fun. A lot of mixed media stuff. Anyhow, so I did all of these stories and different approaches and different materials, and this is the only 2-page spread of a Viking berserker who wants a little bit of me time. Anyhow, that's Jerry Seinfeld. A comedian has to become the one thing he hates the most, a clown. Anyhow, so this book came out, and yeah, it sold pretty well, and we had fun. But I haven't put anything out since. And I've put books out by other people, but I haven't put anything out since, because that book is my 30th book, and a single floppy comics. It's the largest one I've done, but I felt that I was I needed to step out and do something more. So all these books, I would publish 100, 300 copies of these books, and sell them locally, in southwestern Ontario, and and I'd sell them at the store I worked at, and as far as it went beyond that, not really. And the reason for that is that I was working, I was raising kids and all that stuff, and so this was secondary. But since I retired from the store in 2021, and have continued doing the 1-page stories and collecting those, and I feel like there's some development in my style and my ability. I finally got myself together to do a new book. It's hardcover, it's online, it will be available. We're aiming for the end of the week. If not, because of timetables with publishing, it may be next week. But either way, I'm trying to get it together as fast as I can. It's all done. It's ready to go. This is the proof. I have not a single problem with the proof. I'll tell you the ISBN when it in a couple of streams from now. I'll just tell you now. B0CZ85DJ9N, but it's not available quite yet, and we'll be setting up the pre-orders. I'll be doing them tonight. So this is 1-page story extravaganza, and so this is the side 1-page story extravaganza by moi, and I got a quote from Jim Shooter. Really appreciative of that. He's an absolute legend in sequential publishing in North America. He started numerous companies. He was an editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics for a decade. Started the direct market so that people could buy comic book stores at comic book shops and everywhere else under the sun. So this will be internationally on Amazon. So it's going to be available globally. And I appreciate that question, Yolanda, on Amazon, right? Both USA and Canada. Yeah, and in Ireland, and in Israel, and in Australia, although Australia is going to cost a fortune. But I can't control that. So it should be $21.99 American, $30 Canadian, and I don't know how much everywhere else. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry for that. So this is the format that, so the way that I have the book set up is there's the title and this guy, but then ideally the person that takes it off the shelf, hopefully, looks at it and goes, oh, the picture's sideways. And even if they go back and open it up this way, oh, they got to turn it again. There's a reason I did the picture sideways on the cover. So, and then the idea is that here's the story, here's the page. There's original art that runs down this side. There is the suggestion as it's made below the page. And there is what was going through my crazy noggin while I was working on the page. And so with that in mind, all of the pages, I'll show you a few, as it goes through the book, you get to see the different, hold on, I'll pull in so you can see. Everything's legible, and we're setting it up to go on Kindle as well. So there's the original art, there's the page itself, there's the suggestion, do your own thing, same as title, and there's what this Kookaburra was thinking about when he did the page. This another page, there's the original art, pencil and a marker, and yet I did all kinds of fun things with the robots. And the suggestion is one panel, one image, one word. I would like to highly encourage people to do a story using one panel, one image, and one word. Because it sounds like, oh, just one panel, one image, one word. But it has to be a story. It has to make the reader question something, what's going on. So I did run. Like, what are all these people running from, and where are they running to? I wanted to ask some questions with the image, right? And develop a larger narrative than just somebody running, you know. So that's the challenging part I found with this one. I found this one really challenging. Is my whole point. So all of the pages in the book are like this. There's Jim Luan. There's Paul Pate. Paul has just completed his third book, and he will be putting that out soon. But you can see all the different styles, and by having scans of the original art, you can see, well, this is a pencil crayon part of it, this is drawn in marker, you know, in case you can't pick up on that with the finished image. There's the page that Dee Dee's lemur is in. This is where all the stuff from the stamp swap, I did the mixed media piece. Here's Dugisi God, this is in pencil crayon. And so, you know, the whole idea is to try to do, you know, as many different examples of pieces as I could in one volume. So this book is 80 pages, and it's number 1. I'm going to be collecting stuff to release number 2 by the end of the year. So, Just April says, I'm going to have to buy 2 so I can make a junk journal out of 1. Oh, that's a super fun idea. Oh, and you know, I never even thought that people might want to do that. Oh, Anne says, great idea. I can't wait. Ordered bold. I know, can't wait. Ordered bold multicolored trim to go on the spine. Oh, that's a cool idea. So I'm really pleased, and maybe I'll flip it this way. It has this band on it. The band won't be on the finished book. This is just a not for resale, publisher's proof. But yeah, it's a lot of pages, and there's a lot of stuff in here. And ideally, it's not a just sit down and read through the whole book kind of a thing. I hope that it gives people some time to play with it. It's a hard thing to do, all the one-page stuff, and to just suggest, oh, I'll just look on Instagram or Facebook, because then it's all this scanning, and you're stuck with the doodad, you know, and not everybody wants to look at things on a doodad. So I thought I better get it together. We started working with a publisher last year. It didn't work out. And so I sat down myself and put the book together in 2 weeks, and here we go. So, yeah, there's our first one. And I'll be plugging away on the next one. Now, I was going to initially list all of the people that suggested ideas in the book, but if I did that, it would be one less page for people to see. And I had a couple people didn't want to be listed in the book, and so I thought we're going to put it all up. We're going to put everybody's names up on the website, just out of appreciation, but at the same time respecting the fact that some people didn't want their names listed inside. And I appreciate that, suggesting a wacky idea and then seeing what I spit out. This might not be the same thing. So I completely get, and if people are looking at what I drew and go, I don't know, man, that's not what I meant. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun doing this, and it was really tricky to try to figure out which ones to put in it. But we took a block of time, and what I mean by that is that we decided from the first so many pages that I'd done, and chose from those, and which is easy, which is fairly easy to do because last year we did over 350. So the new project is going to continue the second block of those, and then we'll do. There's been an idea that maybe I should do a book that has multi-page stories in it. Because we've done a number of those as well, but we'll see. Yolanda says, "Congrats, thank you, very nice. That's very nice of you." So this is what's coming out. Now I am taking it easy on my right hand because of my silliness, and but what I thought is, why don't we draw with their left hand? Maybe a choose your own adventure style would be cool. Well, that's what today's page is, right? The page for today is this is a choose. So we talked about this, I think it was on Friday, and let me find my notes. I got my notes kicking around here. So on Friday we talked about here we talked about a choose your own adventure approach and how we structured the second page to be here's our first page, there's our mundane beginning, right? And our second page follows that course of action. So it ends with Yolanda getting arrested. Sorry, Yolanda. And the alternate, or it could have gone this way. If this was a choose your own adventure, if one of the things that you could do is at the first page is say, if you'd like a real world ending, go to page 3. If you'd like something different, go to page 4. And and then each subsequent page or each subsequent iteration of it could be the different response to it. Like we've wrote down a bunch, like somebody picked up something from a vendor. This is the blob idea, so that when they open the package, it explodes out into the hallway and washes the crew and the people down the hall. But it tastes like strawberries. That was the funny output of that, which is an angle I love. I bought a jelly plate, but it melted. That's another possible blob scenario. And then you've got you have to have the hubby denying everyone. Another one was a jelly egg for a kraken, that somebody bought at a small stall in Bermuda. And by the end of it, as the baby's crying because it pops out of the jelly plate, or the jelly egg, in this case, not a plate at all, then the whole ship starts shaking, and that first panel that we did becomes, so you could have the lead with that, but then that first panel becomes the ship on its side and a giant kraken monster trying to pull it under the water. So there we explored a whole bunch of different ideas. Time paradox, is it a dream, is it a nightmare, or aliens, But that's the fun thing about any story. An idea is an idea. And I really appreciate the ideas that people put forward. But where that idea goes is entirely you, or whoever the creator, or me, or whoever the creator specifically is. And all of these different silly options that we're coming up with together, for the people that were in the stream and old Knucklehead here, are possibilities. I wrote something down here. See if I have this note. Right here. So the way you got an opening scene or a setting, and you establish the simple fundamentals of it. You got a cruise ship. Captain has found out something's been brought on a ship that shouldn't be. We're going to go investigate. Okay? No, there's no intimation of anything other than that, right? And then you introduce the underlying problem, which in this case is somebody's brought something on the ship. And then when we get to the principal characters, they start the action. So wherever that goes next, that's the part that really becomes you, or whoever the creator is. But this is where we can start to do things like, if you want to go to page 5 for this response, go there. Or if you want to go to page 6, whatever it is. That's the divergence point, is how I addressed it. I'm missing a bunch of stuff, I'm sorry. Maybe you choose your own adventure style. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, congrats. Thank you, Susanna. I appreciate that. For a whole book, maybe 3 rent to choose your own adventure. Yeah, could be. Will I do an autograph session? Yeah, I'll do a couple of... I'm going to be trying to set up a few different signings. 3 different choose your own adventure stories in one book. Yeah, we could, but why... Honestly, why limit ourselves to 3 if we really want to invest ourselves in engaging in a book idea? There's a number of different directions we can take it in if we really want to explore that. But yeah, I mean, at the very minimum, you could do 3 complete story pieces, right? The way I see it is, from that divergence point, from that part where you look at the suggestion, you hit the little specifics of it. Cruise ship, woman's arrested, husband denies knowing that she brought it, jelly thing in her purse. Those are our 4 key points in that suggestion from Cat and Paste. So if we establish the cruise ship, good, check. We establish that there's a lady on the ship that has something in her, a jelly thing in her purse, check. And then the husband denying it part and her getting arrested. How we get to those points? I mean, you could do a Judas Iscariot type of a story with the husband and the wife, and he sells her out for 30 pieces of silver. There's no rules in it. There's only opportunities. And so if you're going to play with any ideas, like one word, one panel, I can't remember what the other one was. One word, one panel, one image. That's what it was. Even that, allow yourself a moment to just think about all of the different ways that you could associate outcomes from that. It's one thing to say penguin and to draw a penguin. It's another thing to try to tell a story with that penguin with a limited amount of space. Maybe you could autograph some copies, and then the first 10 people who could buy it could have an autograph copy, because not everyone lives in America. So what we're going to do is this. I have a bunch of prints of a number of the pages. And if people are going to order books, this is one of the things we're going to be setting it up. And I'm going to put all this on my website tonight. ChristopherHuntsman.ca, because it needs to be updated desperately. And so one of the things we're going to be doing is that if anybody orders the book and, sends, hey, look, I got, sends a GIF or a JPEG, and look, there's your book, and sends me their address and stuff, because Amazon is a print-on-demand system. You order the book for wherever you are, and they print it and send it to you as fast as possible. And the quality of it is the best quality thing I've ever had done. So I'm very happy about that. But I can't do a drawing in those books because I'm not printing them. I'm not having them directly printed here. So if anybody, when people pick up a copy, those people that might, and you send me that confirmation that you got one and your details, then I'm going to send the print for you and a drawing. So, and then we'll mail those to hither and yon, to wherever people are. So that's our way of saying how much we appreciate, that people might purchase those. And if people are interested in that, then I think the first however many people, we'll figure out what that number is, we'll do that for. Because I can't draw in the book. Now we're going to print out a bunch of copies, and because it has this blank space in the front, I'm going to do illustrations from one-page ideas and put them right in the front of the books that people might be buying in person. And I'll say, well, give me an idea for a quick story, and I'll do a quick story right here. So we're trying to figure out ways in which we want to show our appreciation for that people might buy some. So let's get some books from Amazon. Yeah, they are good. I can't get over the quality of these things. I've got Paul's books that he's done, and they're great. They're really great quality, and I'm looking forward to his third book. But it's the same problem with if you get stuff off the creator, then the creator can give to you something responsive to your purchasing. I'll show you what I mean by the prints. They're copies of the pages. So because initially this publisher I was working with, they weren't going to let me include certain pages because of their own whatever's wrong with them. And hot take. So what we did instead was figured out that, well, I'll just print those pages out like this and make them available to folks. So there's a number of pages that will be given to people that are interested. This is Christopher Walken in The Shining instead of Jack Nicholson. It's crazy. It's out of control. I've tried to write it phonetically, so I hope that when people read this, let me zoom in just to show you. I tried to write it phonetically, so I'll get my big old noggin out of the road for a sec here, so that when you read this, hey, here's a spooky story of Christopher Walken ordering a beer and drinking it, and but I wrote it like, what can I get for you, Mr. Walken? So, fella, this place reminds me of a movie. So I put little accents and silly bits of business so that I don't suppose you have any beer. So I just desperately hope people are going to read it like that, because I'm crazy. Yolanda asks, does he need any more cowbell? He's got a fever, and the only anyways. So so there's a bunch of pages. Here's the Chuck Norris Fashion Action Show. Chuck Norris had a line of clothing, action jeans, in the 1970s, and that's what that's referring to. Here's Bela Lugosi's Rocks as a Rock Star, and on the opposite side of that is Dental Advice from Vampires. There's a bunch of horror monsters, and on the flip side of that is Halloween number 58, where the scary guy from Halloween is quite old and possibly has Alzheimer's at this point, so he can't remember where he puts his knife, so he's trying to bring out different implements to scare the kids with, and find his knife at the end. And then there's the Universal Family mixed with the Brady Bunch, all kinds of these, so I have there's 16 different images anyhow, and so we'll be sending one of those out to people that show that they've picked up a book. I don't know. I think that sounds fun, you know, and we'll put a drawing inside and send that out there into the wild. It's different. Like if you buy one in person, I'm going to do the drawing inside. But how do I do something special for the people that are buying copies online? This is what I could think of. So we'll see how that goes. So recently, last year, I had a suggested page from Jim Luan that was to draw. Maybe you could have a sort of giveaway for your viewers and Patreon people. Oh, I got a special thing for the Patreon people as well. We're going to be doing anything that I offer special out in the world there, I give to the Patreon, to my patrons. So I've got print for each of my Patreons to mail to them just automatically, and stuff like that. Jim Luan, everybody, run! How you doing, sir? So my Patreon is just it's $3 a month, but the pages that I do on weekends that I don't show on my Instagram or my Facebook, I post on my Patreon, and I have to post this weekend's pages, but like I said, I'm kind of behind on a bunch of things because of this bit of business. But also, I draw in church. I'm a horrible person. But I've shown those before. I'll show you anyways. So while sermons are going on, I'm doodling in a book in the pews. Let me see if I can tone the light down a little bit, because it's cuckoo for coconuts. Is that better? Yeah, there we are. Okay, that's a little better. So this is some of the things that I'll draw on weekends, and I put those up on Patreon. Yeah. So yeah. So there's our ideas, but I like that a lot, Suzanne. I appreciate that. There's a few different things that I want to try to figure out how to go about doing, and I'm definitely going to have to learn how to set up arrangements to talk on people's social things about this releasing this thing and all that stuff. So that's all the things I'm trying to figure out for the release date and everything else. But I really appreciate people's interest and support. Okay, well, while we have a minute, last year Jim challenged me to draw a story using my left hand, and I did. Because I'm a glutton for punishment. So I thought, let's do that today. So I'm going to explore trying to tell a story with, I'm right dominant. So today we're going to try to tell a story using my left hand. I don't know how crazy that sounds for folks, but that's what we're going to try to do. I've got the big old book of suggestions here, and we'll pick one out, and we'll try to tell a story with that, because we can. The chauffeur is a bear. A grizzly bear starts his OnlyFans business. That's gross. Marchie's idea cracks me up. Gopher and an elephant arguing over a poo spot. I think I'm going to do my chauffeur's a bear, and this comes from Miriam. So let's do this one, and I'll write it down on this Post-it. Is that going to work for me? Yeah. So let's see how this goes. Oh, this is fun. Chauffeur. How do we spell chauffeur? C-H-A-U-F-F-E-R. So you can see that this is going to take me a little bit longer to do it this way. But we're going to just, at the very least, try to get it blocked out, right? That sounds great, Chris. My chauffeur is a bear. Now, I started figuring out how to use my left hand instead of my right because of the same reason that, you see me shaking sometimes, and that is I have a nervous system disorder. And so for a while, my right hand I couldn't do things with. So I started learning how to do some stuff with my left hand. And this is Miriam that suggested this. This is terrible handwriting, and I apologize for anybody that can't read it. But my chauffeur is a bear. Okay. Believe me, I tried for that to say Miriam. So, now, before I forget, I wanted to show one other thing, and that is that I got some new pencils, which you're going to think is ridiculous. This is a Rona pencil. I have a number of wooden pencils like this that you've seen me use that are for, basically they're used for construction sites. They're flat, and they're used for marking wood for cutting, and yet they're fantastic drawing pencils in my mind because I have large mitts. Sometimes it's difficult to hold things. These are great. And another is primer pencils, primary pencils like you had in kindergarten. And again, look at the size of that. Look at the size of that pencil. That's you could put a couple of these on either side of your deck and hold it up from falling down. So these are also great. So I've got some of those in, and I'm really excited about that. I also got a carpenter's crayon because, again, it's just a big giant red crayon. These tools, these different tools, well, at first you might look at it and go, I'm not going to use a kid's pencil. Why not? Who's to say that there's not going to be something that, trying this approach and making marks with this tool might not afford you, some availability in your mark making that you might not have otherwise. So, let's see. I got one nearby. Why don't we use one of the, there we go. Come on over here, Chester. So this is one of the things I was talking about. So you can see how thin it is on the sides and how flat it is on the opposites. So this is a Mastercraft version. So we're going to use this and start to scribble out my chauffeur is a bear. Sorry, I put it off camera, didn't I? Okay, my chauffeur is a bear, and I'm going to draw with my left hand. Woohoo! First time you brought out tools that I know and have. Excellent. Well, play with them. They're a lot of fun to use these. My father-in-law built houses, and so I found some pencils that he has tons of these things, and so I grabbed a couple, and that's why we've got some here to show you. But it's people take for granted sometimes there's an expectation that material has to be let me start up here that material has to be fancy and expensive to count, and I don't hold on with that school of thought. I just don't. I think that whatever you've got, whatever you're going to use, is it's still going to go through. I'm gonna zoom in. It's still going to go through that pipe of your creativity, and so with that in mind, you're going to do things and you're going to make marks that other people might not consider. And so if you use this fancy tool or if you use this inexpensive tool, the difference is still you. Oh, the pigments here are better and the quality, the archival quality is better. If you're worried about archival quality in the first place, well, are you in a position you really need to? And one, and two, there's all kinds of things you can do with inexpensive tools to present the finished result in an archival way. So, anything goes. So that for those of us in this world that can't afford to pick up big fancy things, you'll realize that using things like construction pencils still be warranted to look into. Okay, so I'll clean this up once my hand's doing a little better tomorrow, but we're just going to rough this out here, and so we'll put a little. So what I think we'll do is we'll do a young couple on a date, and he's going to try to be impressive for this lady. Sound good? Now bear with me. Terrible, terrible, terrible drawing. But I'm going to try some different things and I have a little bit of fun. Is there any tools that anybody likes to use that you think is different or awkward? Is there anybody that has a specific tool that other people have looked at you using and went, what in the world is that? What are you doing? Have you ever painted a quote unquote, I can't do rabbit ears with this hand, have you ever painted a quote unquote watercolor with coffee? Has anybody ever tried that? This was a consistent thing, by the way, that used to happen when I was in high school. We'd be grabbing a coffee, somebody has an assignment due, and they just start dipping their brush inside of a cup. Ow, it worked, but you wouldn't necessarily think it would at first, right? So I'm just trying to find the form, and I realize I'm being a little too precious right now with the line. So let's get faster and sloppier. Yolanda says I'll be right back. No, but that's on my future plans list. And stenciling too. See, stenciling's fun because you can utilize a stencil in a composition and just apply some texture to something that seems unnecessary. It seems like it doesn't fit, like it's not appropriate or something that would be normally considered. But what that can allow you is, like when I'm drawing pages on top of jelly plating, it allows you this sort of underlying quality of value and underlying marks that you might not otherwise consider. Junk journalist, enough said. There you go. Nicely done. So fun, so many uses. Does anybody take their junk journal pages and take them beyond that? Like, well, let's say you print them out and as prints, or you take your junk journal pages and you scan them with your photocopier or with the scanner, and put those into the computer and clean up the outside edges of them or anything like that, and try to put those together as prints or some sort of composition. That's one of the things that I do. I've talked about my process last week, where I'll, even if I'm working traditionally or not, I'll basically do the line art, and unless I'm working specifically multimedia, and I'll scan it, and then the text I put on, the titles I put on, I do all of that digitally, and that lets me feel free to experiment on each of those fronts. I don't have to worry about my bad handwriting to try to write the narrative for people. So it just is done in the Photoshop program that I use. And my Photoshop program is from 2010, so it's not some fancy cutting edge thing. It's rather old, actually. Alright, so let's see what this does for us. What I want to do is that I want to come in and put some value, like a shadow, cast shadow behind this person, like so. Am I missing? Nope, we're doing okay. Yes, says Rachel. Or no, that was, yeah, April. Thank you. So sorry, April. I've been paid good money for some old bad handwriting. When I have to, I'll do it legibly. My first so many books, I hand lettered, and once I found that difference in quality from the digital, I'm like, yeah, no, this is far. There's far more things that I can do with this than I ever could with my traditional approach. And mind you, I can write in a whole bunch of different handwriting styles with my traditional approach, but there's still things that you can get from the other. You draw better with your left hand than me with my right. Well, that's, again, with anything else, any tools or anything else, it's about application. It's about trying. It's about, the more you do a thing, yeah, good Lord, look at you go with that left hand. I think I may need to lay down to recover. Okay, you guys are silly. So the more that you do anything, the more that you develop something to be able to be done from that. So like when it comes to the composition of the characters, well, I've got that figured out in my head, right? We understand perspective and we understand all the different parts of making up our characters, but the finish here is kind of podgy, right? I would clean that up just because, I'm an anxious guy. Fussy, that's what I am. I'm a fussy person. So here I am drawing our young lady, and I'm going to draw beside her a young man with my left hand. We'll see how that goes, and if I can keep the two of them in scale with one another. So now here's the thing, okay? Now the initial thing that I'm establishing here is that here are these two young people getting to know one another in the context of my narrative, okay? And so he's going to suggest to her that his chauffeur, the whole suggestion we're working from is my chauffeur is a bear. How we get to that and the context we put that in and anything around that is entirely us, right? It's entirely our choices. So now her and I'm going to have him standing beside her are going to be looking out a big window. That's my initial idea. And it could be on a spaceship. It could be in a sci-fi city of the future. It could be just some sort of exotic locale. It could be it doesn't matter, right? It's sort of the experimentation as we go along. But what it does afford us is by establishing our story point and introducing our two characters in that first page and in this context for the narrative, it roots our story with a place to start, a place for our reader to step into. And here these two people are getting to know one another in front of this vista of some kind. And he's going to say, so do you have a vehicle of your own? He says, oh, yeah, of course, but my chauffeur is a bear. We want to incorporate that into our narrative. Because that doesn't have to be the end of it, right? That can be a bear. You mean a bear? A bear, right? Like a bear. They'd find that offensive. You can do whatever you want with it. Just allow yourself, if it helps you to have a journal or something to write those ideas down in, do so. If it helps you to rough sketch and rough scribble an entire page, like you've seen me do, like these, okay, like these sort of build-ups. If it helps you to plot your story out using text and squares, if it helps you to scribble out little images of those, whatever ways that you feel comfortable in developing up this story, if it helps you to just start, drawing, and because of a mistake you made, having to draw with the wrong hand, do that. But whatever it is that helps you to invest yourself in that, into telling your story, allow yourself to accept the opportunities and allow yourself to not talk yourself out of all of the potential things that could be. Because who knows, maybe this story about a rich guy in the future whose chauffeur is a bear, and this is some underlying story element as sentient animals are trying to get equal rights. You could have some greater narrative that can be incorporated in a story, and if you take your story on farther, more pages or more balloons or an entire book, whatever it is, you can explore more of these elements in a far more sophisticated way. But you can hint and intimate a whole bunch of ideas with just a few words. My chauffeur is a bear. Oh, you mean like, and they'd find that offensive, It tells the reader a whole bunch of stuff. So, something to think about anyways. Okay, so I'm going to put, and again, this is terrible. I apologize for my really scratchy, wrong-handed art here. But I'm following the contour line of this fella's figure. And then we're going to put let's do that now. Let's put the shadow in for this young lady. And so one of the things I often suggest people try is to just take a marker and draw just draw silhouette shapes of characters and figures. And it sort of lets you just get the basics down and not overly concern yourself about all of the marks therein. You're just putting down these flat values. And okay, so here's our young lady. A little divot along the side of her shoe. There we go. Yolanda says amazing drawing, especially for your non-dominant hand. And Jim says bear plus Uber equals Uber. So true. It's so true. But I don't know how they would feel about that, Jim. They might find that offensive. Bears are sensitive. Okay, so I'm just pursuing the contour of, I've got a strong shoulder into his hand along the side of his hip, and then we're following his leg down. Scale-wise, he's much taller than she is. And, which is, it's fun to play. Don't have everybody in your stories be the same height. It's fun to play with size. Don't be sizist. I know. I'm a petite little flower, and I like to see equal representation of petite flowers like me. Okay, so doing the same thing is that I'm following the contours of the figure, and we'll clean up those lines, you know, once this recovers a little bit. But in the meantime, we're going to get this down. That or it just looks like, what happened to Chris? His drawing got terrible overnight. That wasn't that good to begin with. So now I'm pursuing the other side of his form, and I'm considering, I know it's hard to really make it out, but what I'm thinking about here is the volume of the legs, and I'm looking at them as shapes and not worried about all the lines of detail, right? You know, my hand isn't quite steady enough for me to establish identifiable calves or things like that right now, but at the very least, if I can just get a rough sense of his form, then we are cooking with the gasoline, folks. Now I'm going to do my best here to try to get across that, you know, try to figure out roughly anyways where our characters are, you know, with this environment around them. But there's the boy. He's too big for the panel. So we'll do the same thing with him, and we'll establish some of these tones. So that tells us something, and that our light source is coming from over here, from the area that they're looking at. Okay, so if we know that for a fact, then we look at where the lighter areas are on her form, and then of course there's cast shadow, responsive shadow on her back, the back of her arm as well, reflecting off of whatever's behind her, and it'll be some similar stuff with him too. But let's develop him up a little bit here. And again, I'm sorry for the sort of patchy way I'm putting this value down with my goofy approach today. Okay, so now we're going to do his shoulders, his back, and so we want to keep some illumination on that shoulder, right, and along this arm. So I'm going to get this space to define here now. So there we are, where you've got his big old noggin, and into his shoulder lines. But listen, when you're doing a hand, I'm going to leave a void right here of light. And the reason that I've left this, it's funny you say a void when it comes to light, but in a dark area, the void would be the non-space, right? Because it's washed out, and it doesn't define like the silhouette or anything like that. So the reason I've left that is the same reason as I go along the side of his body here, but where his arm sits slightly off of his hip, you're going to have light make its way through. So even while there's this thin line here, let me see if I can bolden that a little bit for you. So even while there's this thin line that follows the shape of the arm, and then there's this internal thin line that follows the hip, light's moving in between those two spaces. And then we'll come through and we'll fill in the rest of his upper body here like this. Best I can, clunky as I can. We're not overly concerned about, well, the lines aren't perfect, so what? We don't expect ourselves, whoops, outside the body. I had to do it at some point. We don't expect ourselves to be perfect. We expect ourselves to try. Perfection comes when you get the Carnegie Hall. You gotta be perfect for that. even then, I'm sure people have done lemon performances at Carnegie Hall. Anybody know the "how do you get to Carnegie Hall" joke? It's a good mantra for people, by the way. Okay, so and I've got down into his ankles there. So here's our first take on these two. Now let's try to establish the environment around them. I'm going to step back off the zoom for this for a sec. And so here you can see the larger image of the two of them standing together. But let's put them someplace in relationship to one another. Now, this might help to more readily define them in their environment. If you can get a ruler like this, they're about $9 Canadian at Michael's. I think Hobby Lobby's your version of that. It's like a nickel American that way. But okay, so here we are drawing this view that they're taking when they're looking out. See if I can turn down this light. Even Yo-Yo Ma says he no longer strives for perfection. Is that right? All right, Yo-Yo. Is that a little easier to see? Is that? Oh, you can see, there you go. You can see the black line I've put down here now, and then there's the horizon one there. Okay, so we've got these definable lines that are framing the viewpoint of our two characters as they stand at this window and look out. And one of the fun things about panels is that you don't necessarily have to have a border around your panel. There's nobody that gets to give you those rules, right? It's up to you. Ow. But so one of the things that we can do is, as we draw this frame of reference for this window that they're looking through, the shadow that sits around it, we can just have, with this sort of smudgy open ending. Susanna says, I think I'll move to America and be near Michael's. Susanna, where are you now? Where are you located at present? Okay, so with this sort of established now, this frame, there's an angle along the bottom of their feet. Okay, there's an angle so that we've now put the platform that they're standing on leads right to the viewpoint. Okay, and then we've got this definable space around there, and we can do some things with this, like pardon me, if we put a secondary line bumped back a little bit somewhere out here in Portugal. Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. One of my kids went to Portugal in the last year. Where she went, I couldn't tell you. She went all kinds of places, and I can't remember them all, but she and her fella went to Portugal amongst a couple of countries. They get around, these kids. All on their adventures. So we've got an internal line that we've drawn now inside of the first. And the reason for doing so is that this is the place that tells us here's where we're going to have our shadows begin. And let's get this going and then there we are. are. So there's no clear external line on this panel now, because we're playing narratively with the image and having it open-ended and just having the value diffuse out. There's no rules that say you have to have a clear and consistent frame of reference on everything. We have a frame of reference within this externalized shadow frame of reference. So we're breaking some rules, kids, and we're doing it together. Go team, go. There. So there's, we pull that down. So there is the top external edge and the side external edge, and then we'll put a clean line using a ruler. This is for Janet Young that I'm using a ruler. We'll put, whoops, mistakes happen when you're using the wrong hand. And put that there. So now we're defining this frame of reference within a frame of reference. Now, I haven't got to draw the double lines here because I'm going to butt the next panel right up against the edge of this. And then we'll put one down here at their feet. Ruler makes me look like I know what I'm doing. What a lovely place to live. Yeah, Yolanda says that sounds beautiful. Yeah, it would be very nice, wouldn't it? It's funny, I'm sure that there's places that would seem exotic to Susanna in Portugal. Like, you know, I don't know, maybe Canada sounds exotic. I don't know. But we always think about the other places in context to the place that we ourselves reside in. I've got a couple of friends that have moved from overseas, and they're like, oh, it's so much better here. It's nicer. The temperature's different. I'm not trying to upsell Canada right now, by the way, but I just hadn't considered that maybe somebody from someplace else might prefer here. Just never entered my mind. Seasons. That's the biggest thing, I guess. So what I'm doing now is that I'm putting some lines down in the floor that are all moving to an imaginary vanishing point that I'm pretending I've actually drawn off to. And so here's our characters in relationship to that. Okay, so the other thing to do, y'all get cold. We do get cold here. But I get colds when my grandkids come over in warm weather. So the other thing that we can do here is to, now that we know these two are looking out this port, this viewpoint, and we know that this is emanating a light source because it's put this contrasting value in the places that are exposed to it as opposed to the places, the parts of their body, the parts of their body exposed to it and the parts of their body that are in shadow. So we know that they would be casting shadows. So that would be the next thing for us to consider is drawing these shadow lines off of their forms. And then we just gotta come in with this silly marker. I had a dream to go study and go live in Canada. It's a youth dream, then life happened. Oh, I hear ya. I hear ya. Life gets us all. Oh. All right, so we're gonna put this shadow roughly in here, and I think we got a great start on this page. So one of the reasons that I'm focusing on drawing them in a rough frame of reference around them. This is the key element, is these two people. And there we go. There's their shadow lines coming off them. So, so these are our two key people. The interaction, the engagement between these two is ideally, I'll get that in a sec. So ideally, we want to allow space around them. So if this is the top of the paper, okay, we can have all this area up here for dialogue, right? And these spaces between them is all ample amounts of space. Whatever we end up drawing here, it still affords us ample amounts of space to have that conversation and to do the second aspect of this form of sequential storytelling, and that is to couple the textual elements with the visual elements. So you can put somebody to say something like, "That's a heck of a view, isn't it?" And he says, "Yes." That's a waste of space when we have the opportunity to draw a heck of a view, and you can concise that down to somebody saying, I don't know, "Wow," whatever it is. But ideally, what I want these two to talk about is not where they are and what they're looking at, but I want these two as though they're on a date and talking about themselves. So do you drive? Oh yeah. Well, I have a car. My chauffeur is a bear. Because this whole suggestion, the whole point we're trying to get to is my chauffeur is a bear. And it's people finding out about each other is the objective story that I'm pursuing with this page. And it just happens to have to incorporate the element of my chauffeur is a bear. Why a couple dating? No idea. I have no idea. Just sort of hit me as I started. And then I thought, maybe I want to draw outer space. So we'll see where this goes. See, I had a dream to go study and live in Canada. Young dream, life habit, yeah. My left-hand drawings would probably be stickmen. Yeah, well, maybe at first, but if you wanted to keep drawing with the alternate hand from the one you normally use, if you use your right and you want to keep trying to draw with your left, maybe eventually they aren't. I would give you a fine example of that, and I'll show it to you right now. This is Frank Rosetta. Now, I've shown Frank's work on the stream before, and Frank had a stroke in the latter years of his life, so he couldn't use his right hand anymore. So he started drawing with his left so that he could keep working. So where these are from, that's from 65. I'm trying to find 65. I'm trying to find later images. 64, 75. Okay, so we're getting closer. Okay, this is Frank's left hand drawing, and you can see how there's a lot more action in the active lines here, and I'm going to zoom in on it really close, and you'll see something about what I just did to what he's done here. Do you see how there's a lot of little hash marks to make up the lines now? It's because he's doing what I did in finding overlap to make up the marks. But this is Frank drawing with his alternate hand after his stroke. And, you can see his gesticular work with simple pen marks on his right hand and so much form and function. Look at the simplicity and elegance of these lines right here. And of these lines right here. But in his later years, I think it was in the 70s, he had a stroke and he wanted to keep working. So he started drawing with his opposite hand. So it can be done. It can be done. You can learn not to let yourself be shot down because something's interfered with you and got in your way. Most people don't recognize that My fingers are crooked. My hands, I have neuropathic dystensia, so that means that my fingers are curled under from the muscles doing this too much, from signals from my brain, and so it wears out the muscle, and that finger naturally sits in a bent position. So the bottom two fingers of my hands are both like that, but doesn't make a difference for drawing with the pencil. So we can take whatever adversity we got and try that out. So if you want to practice drawing with your left hand, and here's the fun part, it actualizes a different part of your brain. So a lot of the associative parts of the brain that work with your right hand drawing, if you start drawing with your left hand, then different neurological signals are going to be kicking around in your noggin because you're using this other hand. Jim says, so you're saying the left hand's the wrong hand? Triggered. Oh, Yolanda's being a rightist. There you go. So there's our first panel come together of this couple standing at a big open viewpoint. And I'll put this ruler here so you can see where the opposite ending is a little more clearly. So here they are standing in front of this large viewport, and I haven't decided yet what I'm going to draw in said viewport, but we'll figure something out. But it's fun to try to get yourself to draw things with a non-dominant hand sometimes, yeah, if you want to read about Frank Frazetta and his process, he used himself and his wife as the models for all of his pieces. But if you want to look up and read about his journey, his wife and daughters have turned their house into the Frank Frazetta Museum, where all of his original art is, and so all these paintings are up there and things like that. Okay, so before I go, I'm just gonna sneak one more peek at this. So I will be making announcements tomorrow, and about the release date, and if you can do pre-orders for anybody that might be interested in a new book on Amazon. So I will try to figure all of that out tonight, and in that way, if anybody's interested, they'll know when and where then. And so all these one-page stories that I've been doing along the way here, we've collected 80 of them in a book. This one makes me laugh still. It really does. Hey kids, comics. Mail away superpowers for your children off the back of magazine ads. Salt and Pepper having a shootout. That's my Mr. Rogers page. Okay, that's about it for me today, folks. I appreciate everybody coming by. I appreciate all the interaction and engagement. I'm back to doing 2 o'clock streams again. I've been not feeling too well lately, and Yolanda says I need to more practice with my dominant hand. Well, there you go. Yeah, just try shapes, basic shapes, circles, squares, and triangles with both your hands. See what that does for you. Yolanda says, take it easy, let your wrist heal. Ann says, thanks. Susanna says, bye. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming by. I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST, so North American time there. Yeah, I'd love for you to come out and hang out, and we'll do some more stuff. But in the meantime, thanks very much for hanging out, and bye for now.